Okay, friends, I'm so excited. We've had a few takes, we've had bugs, we've had things come in. You know what? I am so excited to talk to my new friend, Stacy Hawkins Adams. She is a novelist. She's written 9 books for women. One of her books, Coming Home, was a featured read at Target stores. She is She's written a nonfiction devotional, and that devotional is titled Who Speaks to Your Heart. There's a subtitle that goes with that. What is that, Stacy?
The subtitle is Tuning In to Hear God's Whispers.
And I can't think of a time when we need to hear from God more than we do today. And so one of the reasons that I wanted to have this together conversation with Stacy is I was seeing some of the posts that she was posting on social media and also on her blog. And these were about God-led dreams. And there's more, there's so much more than that. But I have to be honest and say that for a lot of women, the idea of a God-led dream seems like it's for someone else. And so, Stacy, can you tell us what a God-led dream is? And then a second part of that, what does that look like for you personally?
First of all, thank you for having me as your guest. I'm truly honored to be here among you and your friends. And I would say probably a God-led dream. I'm going to give you a long answer. And
Okay.
in part, that is because what I consider my ministry as a writer, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, whether it's journalism, my background is in journalism, or if it's in inspirational writing, which I've done for about 16 years, is to encourage people. I'm ultimately an encourager. And it took me many years of prayer and just processing to kind of come to that realization. But as an encourager, the tool that God uses is my writing. And because I've been in the secular mainstream world as a writer, inspirational writer, and also in the faith-based realm, I've been able to see how God can use any kind of word and message that's truly heartfelt and open to speak to women and encourage them. So that's my long way of saying a God-led dream is when there's something in your heart, there's something that you're passionate about. There may even be something that you're longing to do or achieve, and you feel like, I can't do that. That's out of my reach, or that's not for me. That's for someone else. But every time you wake up, every morning you wake up, you think about it. You go to bed thinking about it. You see someone else achieving it, and you get a little twinge in your heart or in your soul because you know that that's something you're passionate about too. So to me, that's kind of what a God-led dream is. It's something, it's the seed of passion that he places in you, and you may not even know that it's from him. You may not, bring God into the conversation, but it's who he created you to be, and it's the purpose that he's given you. And that purpose can be displayed in so many different ways. Some of us are called to be in the faith-based world. Some of us are called to be in the secular world. Some of us are called to cross-pollinate, which I definitely see as part of my mission. And so that God-led dream is that thing that maybe even in childhood, because experts will say by the time you're 8 years old, whatever you wanted to be when you were 8 years old, that's really the seed of what your purpose is. For me, I was fortunate enough to, the minute I learned to read, I started writing. So at 8 years old, I started saying, I'm going to write a novel. Now, it took me like 25 years to make that happen. But you might have said, I want to be a fireman, and maybe you're not a fireman, but you're putting out fires in other ways, or you loved athleticism and now you're a personal trainer. So something about that childhood dream is probably a seed of what your purpose is, and you pair that with your passion, and then you can get to whatever that God-led dream is for you. For me, like I said, really my writing has just always been my passion, and so for me, it was really to just be a writer. And I was in 5th grade, and I remember my homeroom teacher, Mrs. Alma Jackson. Everybody in my hometown of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, knew that I loved to write. Everybody who knew me or my family. And my family would always have me to write poems and essays for like special occasions. Write a poem for your grandmother's birthday. Write this, soliloquy or whatever for the church program. But in 5th grade, my homeroom teacher sent a poem that I wrote about police officers, of all things, to the local police department. And I got a letter in the mail. And when the mail came, my older brother, got the mail out of the mailbox that day. And he ran in the house like, what did you do? You're in trouble. You got a letter from the police department. But it was actually the police chief, Bobby Norman, at the time, writing me a letter thanking me for this poem and basically saying, this really means a lot to us. I framed it. It's hanging in the lobby of the police station so the officers who pass it can see. And for me, like the light bulb moment, it was like a light bulb moment. Like, wow, like writing is not just something that's pleasurable to me. It's not just something that my friends and family are being nice about when they ask me to read or write something. It's something that can have an impact beyond me. So for me, that was really the journey to understanding, okay, I can do something with this writing that can touch the world, that can touch other people. And I didn't say it that way as an 11-year-old, but that's how I began to experience it. And I went on to have a journalism career because I didn't want to be a starving artist. But, you know, once I fell in love with that and using those words to touch and impact people, then I found my way back to fiction. So yeah, God-led dream is whatever that tugging is that you need to answer. It might be to start a daycare or whatever, but whatever your dream is, that's God-led.
I love that. You know, what is really hard is when you feel like you have that God-led dream, and then all of a sudden there is not just a couple of stumbling blocks between you and that God-led dream, but it feels like there's a mountain between you and that God-led dream. And I remember I was the first one to go to college in my family on both sides. And I was 100% on my own. I was self-sufficient. I was working 2 jobs. And it just felt like everything that I was doing, it was not enough. And I remember go all the way back, submitting a story for one of the classes that I was taking. And that teacher just saying, you know, you're a writer, right? You know, you are a writer. And it felt like, I mean, that was awesome to hear, but I was trying to survive. You know, my next thought was, how am I going to have food? You know, how am I going to pay for room and board? And so, but then there's other women that maybe it's not, the obstacle is not survival, but the obstacle is you've been told your whole life that this is for other people. So when we have that mountain between us and a God-led dream, I know what I speak to it. But what would you say to that woman who just says, I'm not sure this is for me?
Wow, I wrote a whole novel about that. And that's my fourth novel, The Someday List. And it's about
Okay.
this woman who thinks her dreams are beyond her. She's stuck in this life that she can't live anymore. And a dying friend challenges her and other people to write this someday list. And she can't even think of anything to put on her list because she's lived for other people, her husband and her children, for so long. She's like, I don't even know what I would add to it. So she goes on this journey to figure out what her God-led dreams are and who does God want her to be, and how does she live that out in a way that still, you know, helps her be who she needs to be with her family, but also honor that part of herself. So I feel like I've talked to many women about that. And I think in particular, when you're in these tough circumstances, or I call them seasons, because like
Yeah.
life doesn't happen. We want it to be like A to Z. And we want to say, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then this is going to fall into place. And we all know that stuff happens that doesn't allow life to happen like that. So for me, I feel like it's understanding that it is about seasons, and it is about, sometimes we'll have a pause in life, like those pauses we want to treat like they're periods, like this is the end, and it's really just a comma. It's a pause. It's where we're going to learn or grow. And what I've come to realize is that when we're in those seasons where we're like, I can't do this, this is the end of the road, I don't see myself in that dream, those are sometimes the places where God is growing us. Like, if we can just kind of lean into the present. And I've been in those situations. My 2 children are young adults now. I have a 19-year-old who's a freshman in college. My daughter just graduated from college. She's 22. And for the past 10 years, I've been a single mom. So going through that period of, you know, divorce and having to figure out how to co-parent my children and make sure that they were healthy and whole emotionally as well as physically, and making sure that their lives are what they needed to be. I kind of had to put some of my dreams on pause. You know, I couldn't write a book every year during that season. I had to take on some other things to make sure that the family was okay. But even within that, there was this such a passion in me to write. It was like, okay, I'm not going to be able to write fiction right now, but I'm going to write my inspirational Facebook post. And that became enough to feed that dream in me. Or I can write a nonfiction book because I can do that and multitask while I support my son in all of his athletic activities, because I actually didn't write fiction for the past 4 years because I thought, he's got 4 years of high school left. I need to be present for that. But I will tell you, I so missed it. I so was like, every time a friend's book would come out, I was like, yay. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I should be writing another book. But I had to tell myself, this is not the season for that. And the reward of that is now he's into probably his first month of college, and I have an empty nest, but I'm so at peace. I'm so enjoying this stage, and I'm ready to write another novel because I was fully present for him during that season. And there are things that you learn along the way. You learn and grow. And when I write another book, I'll have empathy about certain things that I've had to experience. I will have a certain maturity. So those places where we feel stuck or like we're not enough, kind of lean into that a little bit. You don't want to stay there. You don't want to believe those untruths about yourself, but ask yourself, what am I meant to learn in this season? Because either you're meant to encourage someone else, you're growing in some way, people around you are watching how you deal with that. There's always purpose wherever you are, but just don't ever forget that you have a dream in the midst of that purpose.
It's so good. You know, when I think about what I say to my younger self is nothing is wasted. Absolutely
Right.
nothing is wasted. God uses every drop of that obstacle. He uses every drop of that struggle. And it is, when you sit down across from another woman, or I stand on a stage, or you stand on a stage, and you're speaking from a place of empathy, and I have walked through this, I have experienced it, then that person on the other side of that, that is genuine. That is genuine to them, and they can grab hold of it. When I write, you know, when I write a book about joy and then release it in a pandemic, you know, I can say to them, I know what it is to face joy stealers. I know what it is to think that this season of scarred will never end, and yet God is faithful. And so that it does carry weight, and nothing is wasted. And so that woman who's listening, you know, Stacy's words are gold here, is that don't let that dream go, but also understand that right where you are, that this is God will use this. He will. You lean in and you hold it tight, and don't let go of that dream. And every drop of this will somehow be used in a powerful way. And it makes no sense in the natural, but supernaturally it does. So I have one last question for you before we go, because I could talk to you all day long. Your hashtag, you have a hashtag called, I believe, Life Untapped.
Yes, Life Untapped.
I want to know what Life Untapped is about. I want to live Life Untapped. Or actually, I want to live.
So I think you are living it, Life Untapped. Yeah, for me, I came up with that hashtag back in 2004 when my first novel came out. And at that time, when my first book came out, I was writing an inspirational, somewhat faith-based column for a daily newspaper here in Richmond, Virginia. And it was really an anomaly to, you know, have a daily newspaper allowing someone to write about faith in the way that I was in a weekly column. But what I was hearing from the readers was like, I'm an atheist, but I read this every week. Or I'm Jewish, but, you know, I know you're of another faith, but I'm still drawn to this. So it was something about me knowing that it really wasn't about me. It wasn't about necessarily what I was. It was being used as a tool to give life to myself and to others. So when I say Life Untapped, that means don't hold back. Like lean into whatever that season is. It's your book, The Joy Seekers, finding the joy in the midst of the storm. It's like being honest about a season not being fun or good. It's difficult, it's painful, but even in the midst of that, there's something that you can be thankful for, or you can find some joy in. And I remember just doing one of my toughest seasons with my kids. And, you know, it just had been a tough year. And so going into the new year, I just didn't want to dwell on the tough previous year. So I got this jar, and I got this idea from something I'd seen online, and I got this jar. And I was like, for this entire year, anytime something good happens, you're going to take one of these colored stickies. We're going to put them in this glass jar. And then in December, we're going to pull them all out and read whatever we put in there. It can be big, it can be small. And we literally did that for a year. And at the end of the year, it was as simple as, you know, Jay got an A on his math test, and math had been hard for him that year. Or Sydney did so-and-so, and she'd had a tough time. Or just, you know, we're celebrating that we ate veggies all week and no one complained. Like simple to like the big things, like, oh, wow, I have another book coming out. Yeah. But it was really meaningful because it was a reminder that Life Untapped is the daily journey. Every day that we're breathing, we're here, there's something that we can give to other people, but even if it's just a smile, and something we can receive, looking for that gem, even in the midst of the storm and in the midst of the pandemic.
Oh, wow. Well, I am so excited that you have joined me today. And how can people find you? I want them to be able to go from here directly to find you and your books.
Well, thank you. The easiest way will be my website, which is stacyhawkinsadams.com. And then certainly they can also find me on social media at Stacy Hawkins Adams. And if they want to go right to bookstore, same thing, say Stacy Hawkins Adams on any of the online bookstore platforms as well. And thank you again for having me.
Absolutely. Well, guys, be sure and check out Stacy Hawkins Adams. Follow her on every social media. Check out her books. And I've loved this conversation today. So I hope that you and I can get to know each other even better after
I love
this.
that.